Welcome to the Builders Podcast, episode 127, Optimizing for Conversions, a holistic look at website performance. Before we jump into this episode, please subscribe to this podcast, hit that notification bell if you're on YouTube, and after a listen, please give us a thumbs up, like, and share, if we've earned it. With your help, we can reach more people and deliver these valuable from the trenches lessons to those that need it. Enjoy the episode. Hello, friends. So in this episode, we're going to get very specific. We're going to talk about something that is near and dear to my heart. Why is it near and dear to my heart? Because this is what I do. I run a web design and development agency. So what we do is a lot of stuff, actually. We do everything from building complete websites, designing and developing them, to maintaining them, to building just simple features, to all that stuff. All that stuff. Troubleshooting, a lot of troubleshooting. Fixing bugs. I got an entire team that does all that stuff, and does it really well. It's been a few years that we've been doing this, and I've developed a pretty cool team that handles those things. But anyway, that's enough about what we do. I want to talk about this something specific, and that is website performance and how that impacts everything all the way down to conversions. And I actually really think that this is something that maybe isn't intuitive to a lot of people, maybe a lot of people that are running businesses and their websites out there doing some stuff, but maybe they don't understand all the technical stuff behind it, right? That's part of my job, actually, in my position as I talk to clients and other agency partners or whatever, is educating them and helping them accomplish things that does impact their conversions. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about, right? Whether you're converting things to leads, whether you're selling services or products or selling products, converting the sale, doing promotions, all of that stuff, like an agency like mine, we're there to support it, right? We're there to support that effort and help you do all the things you need to do to be able to actually see those conversions. Because it's as simple things as just, the website stays up during promotion, right? That's a really critical role we play. And we've come in and we've fixed situations with like servers and web hosting, getting people off bad web hosting and bad servers, or better optimizing their environment so their website doesn't crash during a promotion or is offline for hours on end. It's happened. We've come in and fixed those things. We also do a lot of maintenance where those things are prevented from happening. But at the end of the day, those things help, but also just the optimized experience of a website where it's a pleasure to visit it. It's quick, it's fast, it's easy to navigate. All those good things are in place. And without that, it doesn't even matter. Like if your website doesn't load or it's just designed in a wonky way that is hard to navigate and all that, it doesn't matter how good your copy is, right? You might still convert some, but speed and all that stuff, that is really, really important. It's also very, very important from an SEO perspective, because like Google specifically really loves speed, especially on the mobile side. So there's difference there too, right? So you have a mobile speed and you have a desktop speed. There's two different speeds, and to accomplish the highest speeds is not always a piece of cake. We do it a lot. We look at speed all the time. My QA department, speed is one of their critical things they check when we're updating sites and doing our maintenance and all that stuff. So we regularly check speed and all that stuff. And we do that because we have clients that rely heavily on search traffic, and speed affects rankings. So it's a thing. It's a thing. So yeah, so from a search engine perspective, your rankings can suffer if you have a slow site, if you got images on there that aren't loading fast, you got the infrastructure, the server you're on can't handle your traffic. If you have a WordPress install or any kind of website that has lots of bugs and issues and it doesn't load, maybe it doesn't load at all. I don't know. You never know what could happen. You have a plugin that goes out of date one day, or there's a WordPress update and one of your plugins is suddenly critical and breaks your site. There's all kinds of scenarios and things that can happen, right? So the other thing that that speed and that reliability of your website loading is super, super important. It can affect things like bounce rates. Bounce rates are super important. I don't know why I have I have things dinging. I try to turn things off when I'm about to do this, and then sometimes things don't turn off. But no, so your bounce rates. So what is a bounce rate? If you've been online for any length of time, you probably know what a bounce rate is. It's basically when somebody comes to your website, how quickly do they leave? Or how many of those people leave, right? Because it didn't load. They didn't, that there could be a number of reasons. Number one, they land somewhere and they look at the content and they're like, that is not relevant at all to what I was looking for. And they're out of there. Could be just the look of the site. It doesn't look very professional. They're out of there. Could be it never loads. Well, there's something broken on the site and they're out of there. So it can definitely affect that. You have to care about user satisfaction, right? When a user, a person, a visitor comes to your website, you have to give them a good experience. It should be pleasing to be there. When they land on your website, they should know what the next action is. They should immediately know from the headline or the content that they're in the right place, that they didn't search for dogs and they're on a cat site, right? Use that example a lot, or vice versa, right? I need cat food and I land on a landing page that has dog food. That is not good, okay? They're out of there. There's your bounce rate. But so that has to be a good experience. They have to know why they're there. Then you have to give them a good reason to keep going into your site or take the next action, right? All those things matter. And that all comes down to the performance of the site, right? Your site isn't performing well for you if you have people leaving. So, you have, for people, session duration, in other words, how long somebody is in a session on your website, so they're searching your website, matters. Those things matter. If you want people to be on your website as long as possible, or as long as it makes sense, right? If it's just reading an article, hopefully they're not spending an hour reading an article. Or maybe they're taking notes. Maybe they're reading a couple times. Never know. If it's that good, could happen. But those are the things that are super important, and your technical team plays a role in that. It plays a role in, like I said, in making sure that the server is good, optimized, the website's loading quickly, and also whatever you're using. If it's WordPress, for example, there are a lot of WordPress sites out there that have really, really bad load speeds, performance. And it can be for a variety of reasons. It can be the theme, which is not built very well. It could be you have 50 plugins that are all, and there's conflicts in there, things loading. We're spending 2 weeks this past month rebuilding a site from scratch because it was definitely affecting performance. The site was basically not loading at all. And it turned out there was some conflict, something happened, and the database became corrupt. Now that's not actually a very common thing, at least in my world. Usually it's, we see the conflict between two plugins or something, or the theme is having, there's outdated code or something happened. like that and you correct it in the code, rarely have I seen where a database becomes corrupt. And it's a whole story, but that happened. And so that is where we came in. It's a pretty big cost to this client for us to do this. It's basically snapping everything back. And they did have over 50 plugins, which is part of the challenge. But yeah, it's super, super important. Now, what influences conversion rates? I mean, it is the technical side. It's also just how your content's structured, what people see when they land on that page. As I kind of alluded to, you have to have a good user experience, right? We've worked with clients this past year and in years past, but I'm specifically thinking of a client this year where performance, or conversion rates came out of a need to improve. They were kind of suffering on this SEO side for different reasons. Markets changed a little bit and their sales were down, so they wanted to optimize their website for conversions. And so what they did is they went out and got a conversion expert. And then what I did with my team, I translated that, what we could do, and then came up with a new design and new layouts. And my team, my designers came in and we redesigned like the product pages, and we've done redesigns to some other pages on the site, including the homepage, and rebuilt those things and optimized them, and added elements in that do conversions, like what lends to a conversion, like reviews or whatever on your site. That all can impact conversions. So that is part of it as well. But it's just the overall design, of course, right? The design of the site, it has to look more professional. We're about to tackle that on an existing website. It's not performing as well as they want. So this step that we're in is to give it a fresh coat of paint. We're not rebuilding the site from scratch in this case. We'll take that same template they have now and we will modify it and retranslate a new fresh design on it. So that can happen. That can be done with WordPress, or this is actually Shopify we're talking now. Almost any platform or any website. When you need a new website, do you really need a new website, or do you just need a fresh design? Refresh colors, maybe some tweaking to the layouts. Do you really need to start from scratch? Because here's the thing, you don't always want to do that. You don't always want to start from scratch, especially if you are dependent on search, SEO, right? Getting search traffic, because it can, a big change could really change the structure of your site and it could impact in a positive way, but also negative, right? So you could do it incrementally over time, just slowly up. And that's what we do with some of our clients, is just slowly, even our own sites. We do a little bit here and a little bit there. We got a new initiative just to update this page or create some new pages. So that can all be done. It doesn't always have to be a start from scratch situation. I think, but sometimes it has to be, like if it's a really out of date site or the theme isn't supported anymore. There are scenarios where we have to start from scratch. We don't have a choice. Or if it's a completely different platform we're taking them from, that's not WordPress, and bringing them to WordPress or something like that. Same thing. So all that's really, really can be helpful, right? Doing that stuff. Some other strategies around basically, improving the performance of a site, things that we do a lot of, is optimizing images. But honestly, from my experience, that's usually, it's helpful, but it's not the big help you'd think. Even if you have unless they're huge, right? So when an image loads on a web page, if it's really big, I'm talking like 5,000, 10,000 pixels and it's trying to load. I've seen that where they've had the programming behind doesn't change the size of it, or it allows these big images, or somebody just loaded them all in, and like displays of all these images have to load one by one, and it's really slow. And images can be optimized in a couple different ways. I mean, number one, the size, right? The resolution of that image should be appropriate to whatever container it's in on the site. You don't need a 3,000 pixel wide image if you only have a 300 pixel little place that's going on the site. So that's number one. You want to go a little bit bigger. Usually go a little bit bigger, a couple hundred extra pixels, like even logos. Like if you got a 300 pixel container, you make it a little bit bigger and let CSS do the rest of the browser. But that's the first thing. And then also there's tools out there that can optimize the image further and take a lot of the metadata out of it and stuff like that, and condense it, compress it. And that helps too. So a lot of times I actually have on my desktop, I'm looking over here on my desktop, I use Image Optim, and literally what I do, and I do this for my own blog too, by the way. So I have at mattlevenhagen.com. I have a blog. I talk a lot about teams and processes and stuff like that on there if you're interested. But when I create a blog post, I have a hero image. So that's a certain size. And then, but then I have recent articles, I'm starting to put more images in the body, like 2 or 3. But when I do that there or anywhere, what I do is I have Adobe stock. That's where I get a lot of my stock images. But it doesn't matter the source. You download them, they're usually huge, right? They could be 4,000 or 5,000 pixels or whatever, or more. What I do is I open it up in Photoshop. I resize it in Photoshop to the appropriate size for where it's being used, right? Now WordPress does, by the way, resize if you got a big image and put it in there. I think it's 1920. It will not allow you to have anything bigger than that, or you can program it to do that. You can program it to do anything, but what I do is I resize it and then I drag it over to Image Optim. I literally just drag the image, drop it on the icon on my desktop, and it opens up and optimizes it. Usually, a lot of times I get 10, 20, 30% after it's done. It's decreased the size by that. And then I put it on my website. So that's a nice little way to optimize your images. It's a really simple process. It doesn't take a lot of time. So definitely be doing that if you got images. But like I said, though, having said that, what I'm going into, and I've done this many times, when I'm going to optimize a website or a web page, I used to think this a lot, actually, early in my career. Like, well, we'll optimize images, and that'll be a huge, huge improvement, especially if I knew their images weren't optimized. But it's usually like a few points, maybe. Like just because generally, like Google page speed, it's 0 to 100, and so it takes it from like 26 to 28, and that's when the disappointment sinks in. The other thing, though, is using cache plugins and stuff. If you we always use a cache plugin with every website we build. That's really important. Basically, it saves a copy of your web pages locally, so and it refreshes that periodically or when you update the content, and so it doesn't have to reload the whole site all at once. It's right there. That's the other thing. Server, again, optimizing the server, because there's slow servers, there's good servers, there's bad servers. That's a whole topic in and of itself. Using a content delivery network, a CDN, it's really important, or very helpful. It's really, really helpful if you have an international website that's accessed all over the world. What that's essentially doing is it's loading assets, resources locally, instead of I'm in Wisconsin, instead of like loading. I don't know where my servers are. They're not in Wisconsin. They're somewhere in the U.S. But instead of it loading there and then having to route it all the way over into Asia somewhere, so it's in Asia. The data center's in Asia, and it's pulling it from there, so it's a lot quicker there. So that's a good thing. Minifying CSS, JavaScript, HTML, if you can, which means you're compressing it, you're condensing it, the code to save a little bit. Again, it'll save a little bit. It's good. One of the most impactful things, though, is especially with like WordPress, is actually the load order of things. So like JavaScript should always be at the bottom, and knowing what should load last, especially and that's also for the visitor, because what can happen is if you have some kind of JavaScript something animation or something happening on the, sorry for the people watching video, I don't know what I'm doing with my hands, and the header, but that file loads last, and you got kind of a big page, then somebody loads it, and then they might see a flicker. They may see, okay, where'd that come from? Oh, why is there an empty space there? Oh, there it is, because it's waiting to load that piece of code. It's waiting. So you got to optimize for those things as well. We've had to recently, we built it was like a carousel for basically logos for ratings, like BBB ratings and other ratings they had, and had these little logos. And it was like a little carousel, like 4 or 5 of them. And it was just a small carousel that would show up on mobile. But unfortunately, we had a bug. It would flicker, and it would like not load right away. And turns out it was that exact problem. We ended up doing is I had to sit down and brainstorm, like, okay, what do we do here? We just make it static. We actually went to a little bit different of a little trick where it loads static first, and then it starts to, it still hesitates a little to start rotating, but it's not flickering. It's like, it's there, and it shows 2 logos, and then we have this kind of fade in, instead of a carousel. A little bit of change to design. That's what you got to do. You got to be creative sometimes. Sometimes you got to work within the framework you have. We weren't going to be making any major changes to this established website, established homepage that has been bringing in conversions, pretty good conversions for a long time. They're really important for revenue. And and this was just a new feature but it was an important feature. But I had to, myself, and then my team helped me figuring out how to redesign that. A lot of times with the way things work for me, I will ask my team sometimes what they think, what ideas they have, and they are awesome. They will come back with an option or 2, and I'll give it a green light, or maybe I say maybe a red light. Let's think about that again. Or I will a lot of times think of these things myself. As a programmer myself, or a web developer, I've done a lot myself. So it's easy for me to conceptualize or think about these things, brainstorm, and come up with ideas based on my past experience in doing things. And plus all the stuff we've done over the years as a team. And eventually you've done a lot. So you can think of a lot of different ways to do things. That can be problematic sometimes in a conversation because I don't have one way to do things. So, or one way a client likes to do things. So I have to figure out what that client wants. But anyway, I digress. So beyond that, okay, so those are the type of things like programmatically and just, technically, that can really help. And again, this all goes back to conversions. It doesn't seem like it, right? It's a piece of code. It's a plugin. It's how files are served. What does that have to do with conversions? But all of this does. As much as the design, it all has, it's holistic, right? It's holistic. You have to have good design. And design that doesn't overtake other elements like your CTA. Your CTA should be front and center and grab the attention, or the next action should be obvious. So the design has to be done in a way that complements that. It doesn't detract from it. The layouts have to be good. The copy does have to be good. That's not usually our role. I say usually, but we do copy too. And I'm thinking of a conversation I just had with one of our partners. And hello, valued listener. It's Matt Levenhagen here from Unified Web Design LLC, interrupting your podcast listening for just a moment. Ever felt like your website could use a boost? Or perhaps you're running an agency and you're searching for a reliable partner? That is where my strategic web consult comes in. My mission is to tailor solutions to fit your unique needs. I've spent years designing, building, and managing websites and forming strategic partnerships with businesses and digital marketing agencies. Let's sit down, virtually of course, for a 30-minute chat to see how my experience can serve your business or agency. Think of it like a friendly round of golf. You and I hitting the virtual fairway, discussing potential strategies to improve your online presence. Actually, if you're in southeastern Wisconsin, we could do that instead. I'm always up for a round of golf. But no obligations, no hard sells, just good conversation and a shared aim for the green. Before you go back to your regular programming, here's where you can request a consult. Head over to unifiedwebdesign.com, fill out the form, and that will open a ticket, and that ticket will find its way to me. But don't wait too long. This offer is valid for 3 months after the release of this podcast episode. It could be extended, but no guarantees. So why not explore what's possible? Let's hit pause on the challenges and press play on potential solutions with a strategic web consult. Now, let's jump back into our podcast episode. Game on. But so that has to happen though. So let's go back. Good design that complements, doesn't detract from a good CTA and copy. Okay? Copy is important because that's how you actually convert things and get people's minds going, right? In the right direction. That's how you encourage them to take more action and to keep reading. So that's a copywriting thing, right? All that. But good design, good layout, should be professional, right? Based on whatever industry you're in, whatever you're doing. You know, what's professional for a dog site is not the same for a lawyer or a law firm or wherever. But then beyond that, see, now all that sits on something, right? What does it sit on? What is the copy and the images, and it sits on something, right? How is it delivered? Code. Code. It's not just paint. It's not just some CSS either. It's code. It's being displayed via code. And that code needs to be optimized so it displays well and it loads well. And like I was just talking about, it can load order and all that stuff matters. Big. Load order. Let's go back to that for a second. Load order. We struggled with the website for a long time. And we finally figured out, there was a lot of things we were doing to it, but then we got to the load order and we figured out how to do it with this. It was a WordPress site. It was very difficult because it depends on all the things you got loading and the different plugins you have and all this. We finally found the solution for us and doubled the speed overnight. It was huge and increased the rankings. The client was very happy to this day, right? And shocked because never thought we'd get it there. But that's super, super, super important. And so all that, right? But it also has to be on good infrastructure and good server. And that server has to be optimized for the type of traffic you get or be able to scale up. Like I love servers that are cloud and suddenly you get a spike, you get a promotion or something, you get a spike and it automatically scales up for you. That's a beautiful thing. You know, those are the type of things you got to think about, especially if you're doing a lot of promotions. But so you got to be on good infrastructure, right? At the end of the day, okay? At the end of the day, all of this stuff is super important. And these are things you can learn to do a lot of this yourself. There are great tools out there. There's tools like Google PageSpeed, okay? That if you Google PageSpeed, you'll see that come up. There's other speed tools out there. So some of that stuff you can kind of gauge yourself where you're at, and it'll give you recommendations. And, You can follow good practices like I talked about, like optimizing images and those type of things, and making sure you have a good, well-supported theme, something up to date. The website's up to date. You have a good design. All of that. There's a lot of things you can do, and you're going to be in charge of your copy and all that stuff. Or you can get help. That's why agencies like us exist, because a lot of businesses don't want to do that in-house. A lot of agencies don't want to do that in-house for their clients. That's why we become partners with other digital marketing agencies and stuff. We do the web design development, whether that's, again, full websites or just maintaining or whatever. So that is, but all this stuff, you think about it, go back and listen to this episode, all the things I talked about. Think about all those things, because they are all important. It's holistic. There are things, though, that are way more important than others, right? Like I was talking about the images. Okay, you optimize a few images on the page and you incremented just by like 1 point or something. Kind of disappointing, but you made progress. So some of that stuff, it adds up, right? But then there are things like load order or some bug or conflict that is causing the site to load really slowly, and that's a bad experience. It's the experience, but it's all of that stuff, right? It's all of that stuff. That's why I love what I do. I just, like when I think about, I'm going to self-assess for a second here. I think one of the reasons I'm really passionate about what I do, why I love what I do, why I love getting up in the morning, I can't wait to sit down and get to work and help my team and help the clients and doing all that stuff, is because we do have an impact. We have a really, really important impact. And the impact too is us being able to work with other teams. Like you can have, like some of our clients or partners have their internal teams. It might be a design team and we're just doing development, or we're doing both. But marketing teams, copywriters, this, that, and the other thing, they can't do their job well. They can't get the results for their clients well unless they have the ability to improve the website. I just had a call with a partner. I mentioned this earlier, probably the same one. We were talking about that. We were talking about how important it is for them. Like they got a specific way they're marketing. They got a specific message and branding around what they're doing. In fact, it's around branding. They're focused on branding, and they're a very specific way they're doing it. It's very unique. And he even asked, because we're redoing his website, he even asked, should we have websites up there? Because they had a little tab for websites and what they could do with websites. Now, we're the ones doing the websites. Okay, so that's great. Said, but do you want to lead with that? Do you want to carry, he needs it, but because he knows that's part of the deal. But in this case, it's kind of digressed with that a little bit again, too. But it was kind of part of a conversation of what his marketing should be, what he should be focused on, and then we worry about, he doesn't lead with we lead with web design development, even WordPress. We lead with that. That doesn't mean that's all we do. On the back end, even when I'm proposing things to people, I also say, we also could do these things for you. There's other stuff we can do, or we may not even put you on WordPress. We might do something else, but it starts with that. Again, digressing. Okay. How many times can I say digress in the same? It's like one of my favorite words though, because I do it a lot. Anyway, but his thing is, he knows though, if he's going to do the things he's doing for his clients and to help them with their marketing, and he looks at their website and it's from 2003, an old HTML website that barely loads or is super ugly, terrible color scheme, terrible, everything. he's going to have a hard time. Doesn't matter how good his marketing is. He's going to have a hard time converting anything on that website. So that is where our partnership comes in, right? And the same with other partners we have. That's where our partnership comes in. We offer the ability to come in and help with design, development, and maintaining and improving the situation, getting them off that crappy server, getting them into a much, much better situation, giving them good advice, and all of that. And that is, at the end of the day, like I said, there's a lot of these things you can do yourself, but there is a good reason sometimes to outsource. You got to have the budget. It has to make sense. But if you're an agency, if you're a digital marketing agency or something, and your clients are coming to you, I mean, you can't do anything with them. They're going to have to. You're going to have to convince them that, I mean, if I was in the shoes of a digital marketing agency, or I did advertising or something for clients, and I was in those shoes, and I needed to get somebody else to do web design development, and I was talking to a client, right? Do I even want to help a client that has a website that doesn't load or is poorly designed? Because you're going to be up against a wall, right? Trying to get actual conversions and results for that client, because it's all about results. So if you identify their website needs help, if you have the ability to do that, right? Hopefully you're not doing marketing. You look at a website and you don't know anything about websites. But my point is, hopefully, like if it was me, I'd be, we don't need your business then. I mean, why are we're not going to waste your money by us coming in there, because that is part of the deal. Now, we may not do it in-house, but we got Matt over here. He'll take care of us. Anyway, hopefully you found that interesting. I talk about performance here and there. I know I have in past episodes and stuff, but I want to do a full episode on it just to really drill it home, because this is something in my business that I deal with almost on a daily basis. It's all about optimizing sites. We're not doing what we do for our health. People don't pay us what they pay us, and they pay us thousands of dollars to help them with their websites. They're not doing that because for their health, right? I just talked to a CEO it was a new CEO. Hi, if you're anybody listening from that company, that new CEO of this company, we've been helping him with maintenance for a couple of years, and he came on board and he wanted to talk to me. And CEOs do that because they need to make some decisions, But by the time I got done talking to him and what we all do for them, and there was no question. He's like, do you guys got everything you need? Are you good? Because he knows how important we are for their business. They're taking their business. They're restructuring it. He's looking at everything, all their resources, where their money's going, probably their costs and all that stuff. But they're also looking at what are the important components to make this thing keep going, or if he's got promotions planned or whatever. He knows he's got a solid team behind him. He said at the end, he's like, you're the problem solvers. I'm like, yes, we solve problems. I like that. Yes. So we are the problem solvers for them. When it gets really technical, their team can't, runs into something they can't solve. They bring us in. Plus we help keep their websites up and maintained. But I digress again. All right. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you found it interesting. Hey, stuff to think about. Conversions are important, right? Till next time, take care. That's all for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed that. Again, please subscribe if you haven't already, and give us a thumbs up if we deserve it. If you want to comment on this episode's page, provide me with requests on topics for future episodes, or inquire about being a guest, please find your way to thebuilders.fm. You can contact me there or add a comment under these show notes. Now a word from our sponsor, my agency, Unified Web Design.
We build custom websites, features, we maintain websites, we work with agencies to fulfill their web design and development needs, and more. If you're interested in our services or are looking for an agency to work with as a partner to build awesome sites for your clients, feel free to reach out to me at unifiedwebdesign.com. There's a handy contact me link at the top. Fill out that form and it will open a ticket, and that ticket will find its way to me. Thanks for joining me today. We'll see you next time.